that we used wire. So one of the processes that we looked at was how that wire is used, what application it's used in, how well it's tended to or minded to, and that led us down the path where we were able to use Lean Six Sigma to identify some issues regarding waste and productivity and organization. Edward?
All right. So when we came together as a group, we had an idea from Guy talking about, the problem of excessive wire. And one thing that we learned really quickly was that, coming from hearing Guy's perspective wasn't good enough, right? And really to get an understanding of what was going on, we had to go to the gambling. So we took a tour of the actual facility, going through it, seeing here the way the production line went of constructing the boat. And the problem that he was talking about was that there was excessive wire. And you can kind of see this in some of these pictures here. So what we looked at to define this problem, right? How do we define it? What was 5 whys? Why is there excessive waste? Where is it occurring? Why is that a problem? We define it as to decrease the waste of wire, and what this amounts to per year, we found through measurements what James is going to be talking about, is that equates to over $83,000 of excessive waste of profits that they could be making if we can reduce this. So James will talk about that.
So I think probably as in all of our groups, actually I don't know if you guys had this same thing, is when you start brainstorming on the different ideas, we actually had several sheets on a few of these, but we started throwing out ideas on how to collect data in order to help to meet or see, or how we could actually analyze the decrease in waste of wire. Back to the organization to actually see what data was actually available for us to analyze to help define the problem of excessive wire. We came up with more definitive results, or more definitive data sets that we could look at to help define the problem. And these data sets are listed here. Some of them did come from this back page, but sometimes you don't always know the information that you're going to need at the very beginning. You're thinking kind of real broad, and you realize you're way off base. So calculate, or to see where the actual problem is, the wasted wire, we felt it might be important to look at the actual workers that are installing the wire, what type of methods are being used. And we determined that there's 4 methods primarily being used in the workplace right now. The first one would be using a measuring tape. It's not very scientific, it's pretty straightforward. Markings on the floor, which you can kind of see here. They're real grayed out, not really easy to see. So that's one problem with using markings currently. There's markings on a rack that Edward referred to, but that's all being covered up by the chum, so the workers can't utilize that. And then the other method is the arm length measurement. And essentially arm length measurement is, I have a 6-foot arm span, there's 6 feet, 12 feet. When polled, I believe, Guy asked, so how do you measure 3 feet? Just the arm, there's 3 more feet, so it's not a very technical way to measure out the wire. $4 for a grand total a year of $83,538 being lost. So if we're looking to create a better standard, we figured 48%. If you look at cutting that back and multiply it to 83,000 by the 48% to hopefully come up with a savings of $40,098. That's how we got there.
Okay, thank you.
Nancy will be speaking on the analyze.
So at this point, we had our data, and we were still crunching the data and seeing exactly what that was going to tell us. And it was pretty compelling that we wanted to find a great solution that would be minimum amount of cost to the company, and yet realize for the employees and for their profit sharing realistic figure. And we were actually conservative with that 40,000 because we didn't want to overshoot what we thought would be come up with. And so we began to analyze, as it suggests, brainstorming the solution. Decided to go into an Ishikawa diagram to exactly divide it out and see what is really contributing to that waste of wire and make sure we covered all. After we got it all diagrammed out, then we were able to better come up with our suggestions. So we came up with 3 at this point. The pre-wire cut kit. We talked about that. How could we have someone pre-cut all the wires for each boat and accurately measure the wire. This is where we started to look over here really quick. We came across, they want to create an action plan, so we said, okay, so let's look at the action plans, and as you start to look at what that's going to take to implement our suggestions, we came up with B was the best containing wire.
All right. Well, for starters, this is a fun project to work on. Safeboats, kind of wanted to just reiterate, it was a very, very interesting corporation, and myself coming from Boeing was able to kind of tailor a lot with that type of progress, or that process, just to say. So as Nancy identified, we went with option B because it's a little more cost effective, it's quicker to implement, and to get the ball rolling. We want to start saving money. We want to go ahead and get out there and start developing that product. Show me the money kind of thing. So with that said, we wanted to go ahead and break it down into process flow. We broke it up into 2 parts, taking in the aspects of engineering and on the floor process. Down onto the shop floor, and there's a picture around here somewhere, right up over here. This is one of the floor measurements. You can barely see it. So it's kind of one of those visual aspects. You want to go ahead and see what it is that's going on. And with what engineering broke it down into as far as developing the SOP, we wanted to go ahead and bring about employee awareness within that standard operating procedure with the training. And in the red, we've kind of identified the time it would take for the into this at about a 6 to 8 week. There is another option that we had here as far as the storage racking system, that after this has been developed, we can go ahead and break it down into this and implement the system. But again, this is one of the processes. Flow, we broke that into engineering, floor, supply, but also to really emphasize, we want to incorporate 5S into this system as well. Any company that's a company out there or a government entity at times, they want to have a 5S implementation system, reducing waste, and being able to be more efficient with that. So we could have put it in each of these steps, but it's just throughout, 5S throughout. And then our control, I'm taking this one right, I guess. Or is
Go ahead.
So, sorry about that. So in control, we broke it down into 3 main points that we want to go ahead and have that sustainability. We want to go ahead and have continual validation of initial data. So bringing it back home, bringing it back to the beginning. We want to go ahead and make sure that the numbers match or that we're on track. Develop that trend chart, if you will. It's a metric. Validate annual waste. Now, we were trying to figure out how that would break that into. And there is an incremental recycled invoice that they would check with accounting, and that happens, what, like 3 times a year? So within that time, again, validating of the initial data, we can track as to the improvement of that process. And then, of course, standard operating policy or standard operating procedure.
So one of the outcomes of all of this was to generate some other ideas that we knew that we could focus on, but for the sake of the process, what we wanted to do was to simplify it down to one particular area. But as I said, there were so many other things that we could address. And some of those examples are standardizing a cut sheet. What Nancy brought up before was, the fellow went to the cut sheet and said he needed a 6-foot piece of wire. He went to the boat, and he only needed actually 2 feet of wire. So his question to the foreman on the floor is, why did I have 4 feet of excess wire here that I could have saved that somehow. So we definitely considered that as one of the issues that we